everyone. Thank you for attending the 14th part of HULATAM webinar series. In these sessions, we're going to introduce Harrisburg University, the research that is going on, and get you familiar with the professors that are teaching here. My name is Ruzbe Sadikian. I am the associate professor of data analytics at Harrisburg University, and I have the honor to host these sessions. Harrisburg University is a private STEM-focused university in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with an additional location in Philadelphia. We have more than 30 programs from undergrad to grad to PhD levels, and we have 6,000 students who are representing students from 110 countries. HULATAM, which is the term that we use for Latin America, will offer a Master of Science right now in analytics, project management, and cybersecurity. And hopefully soon we are going to offer more and more programs over there. The program will be offered in hybrid format, which means it's going to be online and on-campus classes, and those will be taught by instructors from Harrisburg University of Science and Technology from United States. We're so proud to have our first location in City of Knowledge in Panama, and we are extending to other locations too. HU also offers cutting-edge professional development seminars and courses. For the first cohort, we are going to offer scholarship too. If you have missed our previous webinars, feel free to follow the link that I've shared here. All the webinars are already saved, recorded on Harrisburg University YouTube channel. If you want to get more information about the program, you can follow the link that is shared on your screen to get more information about the program. If you have any question during the talk, feel free to type it in the chat box and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Without any further ado, let's go to our presenter. Our first presenter is Philip Allen Grimm. He is the lead lecturer of the computer science, program lead of computer science undergraduate level. He has over 30 years of experience as a software engineer, both in active duty Air Force services and as a defense contractor. The majority of his work has consisted of application of natural language understanding techniques to the vast amount of data collected in military intelligence, and has also included various technologies such as big data architecture, modeling and simulation, and data management and security. He has worked in the Department of Defense intelligence community as well as in the contracts for Army Research Labs, Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and the U.S. Department of State, designing, building, and deploying enterprise solutions and mission support. In his role as a lecturer, he has developed and taught graduate-level courses in big data architecture, sentiment analysis, and analytic programming techniques, as well as courses in undergrad computer science. His current research effort includes extending the field of natural language processing with multiple language semantic modeling, as well as developing simulation of financial prediction models. He is currently the Chief Security Officer of the God Mode AI company, Chief Technology Officer of Thought Networks LLC, undergraduate computer science program lead at Harrisburg University of Science and Technology. Phil, please.
All right, thank you, Ruzba. I'll change the screen here. Let me get my content going here. Here we go. All right, so as Ruzba said, my name is Phil Grimm. I am the program lead for undergraduate computer and information sciences at Harrisburg University. Have been since January of this year. I've been teaching at HU since 2014. Only been the program lead for a few months since January of this year. Previous to that, about 25 years of experience in professional software engineering, largely defense contracting, and prior to that, about 8 years of service in the U.S. Air Force. I have co-founded 3 startup companies in the software arena. two of which Rusma mentioned. One of them I'm going to talk a little bit more about here in a moment. So today what I'd really like to talk about is the effect that COVID has had on how we teach and how we collaborate in academia. So there's of course been a lot of conversation about how things have changed. The perspective I'd like to look at it from really comes from my software engineering background. In other words, I spent a lot of years working on software teams, both co-located teams and distributed teams, and a lot of tools were used in those years to facilitate having a team work together, both in person and remotely. And what I saw is when we were forced to change our mode of teaching from teaching in a classroom to teaching online and then subsequently teaching in a hybrid environment, some of us really were able to adapt those tools that we use professionally right into academia. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So from the teaching perspective at Harrisburg University, in our undergrad, we've always used, of course, learning management systems. Every institution uses some learning management system. Harrisburg University, in my time teaching there, has used Moodle and Canvas, both of which are open source LMS systems, which are usually then packaged and supported by vendors who provide hosted solutions. And that's still true. We use Canvas pretty exclusively now at HU in our undergrad and graduate programs. Now, our graduate programs at HU have always had some online component. While our undergrad classes were largely in person, our graduate classes have always been either completely online or online with an executive component, which means that they met on campus generally 3 times during a semester for long in-person classes. The online component of those grad classes for years was held in a product called Adobe Connect. Obviously, Adobe, big company, their Connect product was sort of the big, what we'd call the 800-pound gorilla in education and distance education, right? It was an expensive professional product that supported an online classroom with features like the breakout rooms, attendance taking, the ability to do some amount of polling or quizzing online. During the really right before, but mostly during the time that we were quarantined and not able to have classes in person, we made a change at HU. We went to using Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, of course, we're using that now right here for this webinar. Microsoft Teams at the time that we started in late 2019 and early 2020, we really started to use it, did not have a lot of the features that we would expect in an online education tool. It didn't have breakout rooms. It didn't have attendance taking, was a big one. Was not in any way integrated with a learning management system. So those things have started to change. And one of the things that we've seen, Microsoft has moved pretty aggressively into that market. Again, the hosted solutions for Adobe Connect were generally expensive, and the support was not generally great. Microsoft saw an opportunity there where educational institutions that already were using Microsoft products anyway, Office 365 being the big one, and they pretty aggressively moved into that market. They put out some feelers. They did some studies. They discovered that that's a market that they could do very well in, and so they've done things such as integrating with Canvas. So you can launch Microsoft Teams meetings directly from a Canvas classroom. You can take attendance using Teams. You can give polls, quizzes. They've added breakout rooms, and a big one for professors who generally don't see their students. They have office hours, and you can also use it to do things like set up projects and study sessions for students. So lots of stuff that Microsoft really put a lot of effort into in the last few years, and still are. We're constantly in contact with them. Our IT staff talks to Microsoft very regularly about how it's working and what features might be useful, and Microsoft is very responsive there. So that was a big surprise for us, seeing that a corporation like Microsoft moved so aggressively into that space and gave us tools that we could really use. One of the things that's been great about it is since we've come back, so we went from teaching in person in the undergrad to teaching entirely online, generally in Teams, to, okay, we're back on campus, but we encourage our students, if they're ill, of course, to stay home, or if they're uncomfortable coming into the classroom, to stay home, or if there's any risk of exposure, to stay home. Where does that leave us? It leaves us trying to deliver in a hybrid format, and Teams has been very good at supporting that hybrid format. In other words, I can go into a classroom, I can log into Teams, I can turn on a camera, I can share my screen, and I can teach to the students that are in the room with me and the students that aren't. And it's been very helpful for that. So I want to talk a little bit about two different sort of use cases. The first one is graduate research. So again, I'm going to give this one as an example. There's a project, the acronym for which is SPAML, measuring the semantic priming effect across many languages. This is an OSF and Psychological Science Accelerator, PSA grant, given to a large team. The primary writer is an HU professor. There are several others that are part of that primary grant from various universities. Over 150 researchers are involved in this research, including myself. I am a researcher on this particular effort. The semantic priming effect, if you're not familiar, is the idea of measuring when a subject sees a word and sees another word, and they need to decide, are those two words related to each other? Or they need to decide, are those a real word? Or they need to associate the relationship between two words. And you measure how long does it take them to make those associations. So it's psychological research. It's been done in multiple languages before, but what we don't know and what we're trying to find out in this grant is, can we make equivalent measures across many languages? My portion of this research is building words by dimensions matrices in 59 languages to see if word similarity in one language holds with word similarity in another language. Right, so if the vectors of words are similar across languages. So that's the research I'm doing. Again, over 150 people are contributing to this research, between the writers, the research assistants who are gathering, testing data, people like me, programmers who are writing code and doing experiments. So what tools do we use? Well, it turns out Canvas is not only a learning management system that's great for classroom, it's also a system that's great for organizing research projects. And so we've adapted Canvas as one of our tools to give assignments to the research assistants. So mostly it's we need a data set in Afrikaans that shows valence. And so go find a study of valence in Afrikaans and get us the data set for it. That's the homework assignment. We assign it to a research assistant, and they turn in their assignment by giving us that data set. Right. It also makes it very easy for us to send messages out to the whole team or to certain subsets of the team, because we build them just like we build classrooms on campus. The second tool that's been, is of course one that's well known for professional software developers or even non-professional software developments, and that's GitHub. GitHub is a source code repository and a collaboration tool. Used very widely in the profession. It's kind of become the de facto standard now for storing software. Has a few competitors like GitLabs, and SourceForge was one of the early ones before everybody before that, everybody kind of hosted their own. But GitHub, again, very commonly used in industry. Now we're finding it's also very useful in research and in collaboration in times when we can't all be in the same place. Now, another use case comes in the undergraduate side of things, in experiential learning. So Harrisburg University has requirements for experiential learning for all of its students. All undergraduate students have to complete 2 practical projects, a project 1 and a project 2. Project 1 is generally researching and designing a solution to a problem. Project 2 is implementing that solution. The third thing they have to do as part of their experiential learning is an internship. Now, we have lots of relationships with companies in the areas around our campuses. However, once we weren't able to go to campus and once companies weren't able to go to work, how are we going to place interns and have them be able to fulfill that internship? You know, okay, most of those companies have decided they're working from home, but it's really hard to onboard and train and make use of an intern if you're not really set up to do that. If you're not a company that was used to doing remote work, it's really hard to do that. We found some creative solutions. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the companies that I'm a co-founder of. The company is called Thought AI, or Thought Networks, which is really 2 parts of the name. There's a foundation and a company. The foundation is Thought Networks. The company is Thought AI. This company was started in Harrisburg University's accelerator program, founded by 2 professors. I'm one. The other one is Andrew Hacker is the CEO, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer. We, even before COVID, were set up that we were taking interns from the HU undergrad student body and employing them within the company as software developers, as technical writers, other kinds of things. Currently, we have 3 HU graduates who have come back as, who were interns, who have now come back as employees, and we're employing three interns over the summer to work on one of our projects. The name of that project, this is the code name, our internal code name is OXO, or Lost in Thought. We are developing a game for mobile platforms. The game is meant as a technology demonstration of Thought's distributed agent-based AI, and so we're using the format of a game to demonstrate how our intelligent agents work. We are using this project also to train these interns in agile development techniques, in project management techniques, and remote collaboration. So what sort of tools have made this worthwhile? Well, Git is a GitHub clone that is self-hosted in case you don't want to put all your code out on the network. And so we're using Git to be our code repository, to be our agile workboard, to be an issue tracker, to be a wiki. And we're teaching our interns, of course, how to manage all of those things so that when they go out in the real world, they'll be able to do those things. The other thing we're using, which is a great collaboration tool, and I want to actually, now that I've discovered it, move this tool into the classroom as well, and that is Mural, which is a shared whiteboard. And it's not the only shared whiteboard. There are certainly lots of implementations like this, but this is the one we're using, and it's just great, which allows everyone on the project to log into a common whiteboard, gives drawing tools, sticky notes, all sorts of shapes and colors and writing tools, so that you can collaboratively design just as if you were all standing in the same room. This is really the first time in all my years of being a software engineer that I've done that in an online environment, a shared whiteboard. They've been around for a long time, but the times I've used them in the past, they've been clunky. And they've gotten to a point now that they're perfectly usable, and I highly recommend them for a collaborative environment. So these kinds of tools have helped us to solve this problem of collaboration across distance, of being able to contact students regardless of whether they're in person or they're at the other end of a video chat session, being able to manage that delivery of education, that collaboration between students, between researchers, between colleagues in the university, and to deliver the best experience that we can deliver in the environment that we're currently finding ourselves in. You know, you hear the term a lot, the new normal, and I think that what we've seen is a little bit of a shift toward, in the industry, of requiring everyone to be in the same room to do work. And now also in education, where we are going to be delivering classes in sort of a hybrid modality, I think, for some time to come here. And it's going to become that sort of expectation that we are able to do those things seamlessly. And what we're finding is that these professional grade tools that have been used in industry really do translate well into the academic world as well, and allow us to deliver that experience that we want to give to our students. So I have here, just at the end, some links to some of the stuff I've talked about, of course, to GitHub. And if anyone's really interested in that semantic priming project, there's a link to that repository. You can read the papers. Mural, Canvas, some of the literature from Microsoft about Teams and how they've used it to support education, and then some links to the websites for that company, Thought AI, and those materials. And I am open for as much time as we have to take questions if there are any.
So I don't see any questions in the chat box. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. I have a quick question while we're waiting for people to type the questions. You talked about the possible internships that you might have for students, graduate students. And based on what you said, and this is our topic, post-COVID era, do you think it's possible to have this type of collaboration with, virtually? I mean, the students that are attending HU from LATAM or HU LATAM students, can they collaborate on your projects? Can they have like internship in your company remotely? Is it possible?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, we've done it. Not yet, obviously, with HU LATAM because it's so new, but we have had internships from several universities in the EU with one of our partners that is in. He's actually in Estonia. But he's brought us about half a dozen, about 6 interns, I'd say, over the last year. Some of them in Spain and some of them in Germany. So yes, we have had both undergrad and grad student interns come in remotely and work with us virtually. So I see absolutely no problem with HU LATAM being the source of some interns for us as well.
That's great. That's good news. You know, that's always one of the concerns of students. What happens after the education? And this gives them a great opportunity to get familiar with real job, real data that they can work with.
Absolutely.
Some real-time, real-world challenges.
And I love doing that. I love working with the interns now. So in my career, the last company I worked for before I came full-time into academia, I was actually in charge of the internship program at that company. And so I was the one recruiting interns from the local colleges. And then, of course, now I'm in the position of doing that again, but working at the college and providing the interns. So it's interesting to have seen it from both sides. Great experience. In both cases, it's a great experience where you get some of these students they're highly motivated. They want to learn about the workplace. They come in, they say, "Oh, now I understand what my professor was talking about when they said this," and then if you build those relationships, then they come out of college and you hire them, and now you have someone you've worked with for some amount of time who's familiar with the company and can just step right into that role. So it's a really positive experience for the student, and it's usually a really positive experience for the company with the interns in both cases.
Yeah, I wanted to say that's like beneficial for both sides, both for the students
Absolutely.
and for you and your company. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great point. Still, I don't see any question coming up.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, a question came up. Do you think that we will have another change on hybrid education, or we will be at the same pace for the next years?
I think the expectation is going to be that hybrid education is something we're going to have to provide in the coming years. I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon. I think the institutions who didn't do it well at first are going to get better at it. I think, and here's a place, and it's just anecdotal. I don't have good data, but of course, colleagues from other universities that are local. Of course, we have Penn State, obviously a big university near us, Temple University, number of other universities that are around us who weren't doing the kinds of online education that we were already doing in our graduate programs. And so when it became, we went home on a Friday and on Monday we had to start providing online classes. A lot of those universities couldn't do it. And they had to take some time, weeks maybe, to prepare to bring their students back into the online environment. We went home, fired up our equipment, and went right back to work because we knew how already. We had practice, and we knew the tools. We were familiar with them. Sure, there were some of our faculty who had never done it, but there were plenty who did, and we could help the ones that didn't, and we got it up and running, and we were pretty successful with it. I think a lot of organizations weren't that successful, but now we're 2 years in, and they're learning. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to have to do it for a while. I don't think it's going to be any more huge, quick changes like we saw when the pandemic started. But I think what we're going to see is organizations are going to get better at it, and they're going to get those methodologies down, and they're going to be able to meet their students' expectations with a quality product as opposed to a hastily put together emergency product, right? I think that's what we're going to see is everybody's going to get better at it. And I think students are going to continue to expect that option to say, hey, I can't come to the classroom right now because I was exposed, or I can't come to the classroom right now because I'm running a fever, but I still want my education. I still want, and we're going to deliver it to them. We're going to give them what they need. All right, so thanks for the question.
Yep. That makes totally sense. Thank you. Oh, another question. Sometimes it feels kind of impersonal when people don't show their cams. Is it something you're experiencing also?
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of funny. I actually have a funny story. I don't want to take up too much time because I don't want to step on Saeed here, but just a quick story. So this spring semester, of course, we started off online. We were not back on campus yet. We started off online. I generally turn my camera on for the first day of class, and then I don't usually keep it on because I'm showing slides or I'm showing code on the screen, and that's what I want students looking at, not looking at me, right? I don't require my students to turn their cameras on. Some teachers do. I do not. And the reason for that is I got used to teaching online using Adobe Connect where the students couldn't turn a camera on. I was just teaching to the screen. And so I kind of got used to it. But I do understand that feeling of, hey, I don't know who these kids are. I don't even know what they look like. They don't put a profile picture up. They don't turn their camera on. I don't know who they are. So we started off teaching online, and then we went back to school in the middle of spring semester. So now I'm standing in a classroom with a group of students that I've already been teaching for 7 weeks, but I've never met them in person. They're second semester freshmen. So they've never even been on our campus, right? And now I'm teaching them in a room. And I said, oh gosh, I'm actually starting to put some faces to these names that I've known for 7 weeks, but I never saw them. And then after 3 weeks of being back on campus, they relaxed the mask mandate, and we were allowed to go into the classroom without masks on. And so now I was seeing the other half of their face. I got to see the top half for a couple of weeks, then I got to see the rest of it. And so I was talking about it with some of my students, and they said, it feels like we had three first days of school this semester. In fact, it seems like we started this semester 3 times. So yes, it does feel a little impersonal when people don't turn their cameras on. Again, I kind of got used to it in an environment where the students didn't have cameras. So for me, it wasn't that bad. But it's certainly, I enjoy being in the classroom and being able to see my students. And even if it's through a camera, I'd still rather see my students. But on the other hand, We do what we got to do. Sometimes I just talk to an empty screen.
Yeah, I totally understand. So thank you again, Phil. That was
all
great.
right. Thank you, Rusba.
So let's move to our next presenter, Dr. Said Smiley Sadari. He is an associate professor of computer science. He's also the program lead of information science program. Dr. Smiley Sadari holds a bachelor degree in biomedical engineering from the National University of Tehran. He received a master's degree in electrical and computer engineering from the University of Maryland in College Park, and his PhD in microelectronics and device physics from a James Clark School of Engineering at the University of Maryland. Prior to joining Harrisburg University, Dr. Smiley Sadari taught several mathematics, physics, computer science, and engineering courses at both Georgetown University and University of Maryland. Dr. Smiley Sadari has a research interest in semiconductor device fabrication, device physics, nanotechnology, circuit design, and digital logic. Dr. Smiley hopes to give his students a deep understanding of the class material so they understand what's being taught to them. Dr. Smiley Sadari hopes to give students a notion of knowledge in general and to create an environment that encourages them to strive beyond the basic requirements. He is currently the program lead of Information Science program at Harrisburg University of Science and Technology. Dr. Smiley, please.
Thank you very much, Rusbeh, for the introduction. And hello, HULATAM. I'm very happy to be here today to talk about the topic that we've chosen for the discussions today, and also talk about the programs that we have at Harrisburg University to offer. Following the discussions that Phil brought up, my talk is also on the same kind of topic of the post-COVID education environment and the post-COVID education landscape, if you will, and at the same time, we want to see at Harrisburg University's offerings and see how HU's strategic planning in the past and current, for example, efforts in school with the term of technology and all the resources will put Harrisburg University in a special, in a very specific position to serve and to provide services at a very high quality and a very kind of modern way, if you will, with respect to the COVID and post-COVID term, and allows students to enjoy the educational resources that we have and get the experience that we had here at Harrisburg and also across all of our campuses, including the Panama campus. So without any further discussions, my talk is presented in 3 parts. Part 1, I titled that A Brief History of Time. That is going to be a very short introduction of my background, and hopefully I'm gonna gain some credit with the audience over here so you pay more attention to the rest of the talk. And then in part 2, I'm gonna talk about understanding the post-COVID educational landscape. We were in a talk and a presentation by our president, and he was talking about the distinction of the education landscape before COVID and after COVID, or we can call it BC and PC, before COVID and post-COVID, and how this event has created nuances, or if you will, has created new opportunities for institutions, and has created some demands and requirements from students, and how we can manage those, how we can basically put those in perspective. So in part 2, we are going to spend most of the time over there and understand this kind of landscape. And in part 3, we are going to breeze over the programs that Harrisburg University currently offering in Panama, and then we will also walk through some of the resources that are available to everyone to basically learn and hopefully join HU in the near future. So without any further ado, I'm gonna walk into part 1, a brief history of time. Just a little bit of fun fact over here. The image that you're looking at is the first image of our own galaxy's black hole. This was taken almost a month ago by what they call it as an Event Horizon Telescope. It's a bunch of telescopes on Earth that they're synchronized and they take picture of the same location in space. So this is our own galaxy's black hole. And I found this is fitting with the title of this section, which is basically the name of a book by Stephen Hawking, who's the designer or the physicist behind the idea of black holes. So, and basically we are going to see my academic background in a quick, the 25 years of academic background in one slide. 25 years ago, I started my undergraduate studies, as Ruzbe introduced me. After my graduation and completing my studies with a biomedical engineering degree overseas, I came to United States. I started my education at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., where I pursued computer science studies. Then I transferred to University of Maryland in College Park, where I earned my master's and PhDs in electrical engineering. Back in 2015, about 7 years ago, I joined Harrisburg University in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I started my position with the graduate program, where I was working with graduates working on their projects and working on their thesis. So I was their thesis advisor. I was their project advisor. After a couple of years, I was basically more involved with undergraduate studies, and I was fortunate to work with a brilliant team of faculty at our undergraduate level. I worked with a computer science program, and we basically delivered a lot of great stuff, and we achieved a lot of interesting stuff at computer science program. Then I'm now currently serving as the program director for the Information Systems and Information Technology program, which is, I can say, a more practical offshoot of computer science. So we do not have that offering in Panama right now, but hopefully we will offer, as Ruzbeh mentioned in the beginning of the talk today, we will expand and we will have more presence in terms of programs in Panama very soon. So with that being said, I want to jump into the second part of my presentation. And the second part of the presentation is understanding the landscape or educational landscape in the post-COVID era. When I first think about post-COVID education, and when I think about the landscape, I'm pulled by the various tools and resources which are now available to our students and ourselves in order to use and apply. As Phil was going over his presentation, you saw a lot of talks about, for example, GitHub and other resources, Microsoft Teams, and other tools which allow for these productivity suites and all those tools that allow us to provide services to our students and allow students to work with themselves and also work on the top on the courses. This ecosystem of various tools and various resources, it reminds me of a forest of various tools and resources. And this picture again that I have over here is basically an image, a digital picture, a digital forest, which was designed by James Cameron. This is an image from the movie Avatar, if you've seen that movie. And this is where we have this kind of connectivity to the other souls and everything. But this is again the general picture of what I see as the post-COVID environment. We have a forest of various tools and resources, and it's up to us to find the right tools, the right resources, and how to basically exploit those resources in a way that we can convey the content to our students, and our students can practice, learn, and basically engage in a very meaningful way with the resources that they have. With that being said, I want to talk about this landscape. What are the major players, and what are the major factors if you want to do, for example, a strength analysis. Understand what are the strengths and what are the basically the parameters that we are currently working with. Please excuse my coughs. I'm recovering from a COVID and it's all done. Everything is now safe and sound, but the lingering coughs are still with me, so I do apologize for that. So when we look at the expectations and demands, especially in the post-COVID area, we have to think about the good things that students and the instructors will remember, and we can budget on those from the face-to-face in-class meetings that we had way back. Well, we can we can see that a lot of interactions. I think it was one of the questions that was brought up. How is the feeling, the personal touches, the personal feelings in class? I think those are the parameters that actually are important even in a post-COVID environment. So the in-person lectures, the presentations, the collaborations, those are the parameters which are important in a teaching environment, in an educational system. Hands-on labs, a lot of labs, activities, project designs. Phil was talking about coding and using, for example, the teams and groups working on projects. A lot of work is done by collaboration, working together on the, for example, field trips. I have it over here, experiments. Those are the things that our students, they enjoyed it when we have face-to-face classes. They enjoy these kind of resources. And a lot of other things happen in our face-to-face activities. For example, office discussions. I'm sitting in my office, students come in, we have chats with our students. Other students or faculty just across the hall, we just have discussions with them. So these hallway discussions, there are a lot of important issues or discussions that can happen and do happen in these kind of informal interactions. And of course, for the students, they form, for example, group studies. They have activities within the dorms or the student areas that they have, or they have the student clubs. So those are the things that we should and we will budget on those even in the post-COVID environment. And those are the things that I think even with our some of the studies that we did during the COVID in Harrisburg University, we tried to collect some information and figure out what were the things that students are missing in terms of face-to-face classes, or what are the things that they do want to see. And those are these kind of items were the top of the list in terms of the experience, the educational experience that students want to still get. Now, moving on to the online environment or online education. And we know that for the past almost 3 years, online education has been on steroids. We have seen a lot of universities, a lot of programs moving into an online platform because of the COVID. Before COVID, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we were talking about online education, there was some sort of distrust or some sort of negative connotation or negative attention to that, if you will. But that is gone now. The barrier, this kind of diffusion barrier, which was a cultural, which was a social, and somehow maybe it was some sort of substantial barrier because of some substantial deficiencies or challenges in online environment. We did not have online environment as dominant as we have it today. And again, similar to or following on discussions that Phil had initially, a lot of our productivity tools have been evolved in the past 3 years. The Microsoft Teams that we are using right now for our presentation did not have the features that we are enjoying today in the past. We could not have this meeting 3 years ago using the very same platform, sharing the screen, sharing the audio, video, having a certain number of people over here, changing the presenters, giving the, for example, control to another presenter. These were the issues that we had to solve. We had discussions how to, for example, connect the audio of your PC or your laptop to the presentation that you're offering. So these are the challenges that have been resolved. So a lot of companies have worked on this environment. Zoom has been significantly improved its platform. Teams have been significantly improved this platform. So these are the things that we've seen. Now, with all of these in perspective, now the online environment provides new opportunities or provides some sort of added benefits to our historic or to our traditional learning environment, if you will. First one will be the improved access to instructional resources. One of the things that, again, in our studies or in research at HU, we figured out was students enjoy ease of access to the instructional resources. They have access to the syllabus, they have access to the course materials, they have excuse me, they have access to the course recordings. They can go back and play the recordings. For some students, for example, who are special with special abilities, we can have now, for example, closed captioning on. We can have the transcripts of every lecture recorded. So these are the benefits that we will basically we have to take into consideration. More flexibility is another added benefit of that. You can rewatch the recordings. You can basically, if you do not have to commute, if there are some challenges for you to be in a class or a physical environment, you can enjoy this online environment. And of course, the last one that I put over here, it was again one of the students' interest, was the fact that students can get faster feedback on their activities, especially if it's an online or automatically graded assignments. They will see that immediately. Now, why did I go over these? Because I wanted to say that very last bullet point. I wanted to say that now that we have this environment, now that we have seen the traditional education, we almost all of us here have gone through the traditional education one way or the other. And we have already seen the online environments as well. So now our students demand best of the two worlds, and that is fair. That is very true, because that's how we improve and that's how we evolve in our education and in our kind of development of our resources. And that is why Harrisburg University has placed itself in a position that can provide the services exactly the way that students want. And we will talk about this very quickly. Now, walking into the same forest of digital forest that I mentioned in my previous slide, I want to talk a little bit about the tools and resources that are now available to us. A lot of resources that you see over here maybe are particularly interesting for computer science, information technology, maybe into analytics. Of course, for cybersecurity, you will see some items over here. But these are just a sample of the resources, tools, companies, software that Harrisburg University is actively collaborating with or pursuing a collaboration with of these resources in order to provide the best of the two worlds for our students. We have agreements, for example, with the Red Hat Academy in order to provide courses, Red Hat server courses or Red Hat courses for Linux courses for our students. We are working with all the cloud providers. In particular, we are working with Microsoft Azure because we are a Microsoft campus. We are working with LinkedIn Learning, and all of our Harrisburg University students have access to LinkedIn Learning in order to access a lot of resources that they have over here. CompTI is an IT certificate program. We are working with them. We have instructors who are CompTI certified, and they will teach IT courses, and you can gain the certification of CompTI. We have access to a lot of resources, other resources. Test Out, for example, is an completely IT-based resources. A lot of our undergraduate students will enjoy that resource. Cybersecurity, in particular, at the center, you can see the sign for the National Security Agency and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Harrisburg University is working and trying to gain the recognition for the teaching, for the Center for Teaching Excellence in terms of teaching certified a cybersecurity expert. So then you will have that in your resume, and that will be opening up a lot of opportunities for you. And these are all high quality resources that we will work. And constantly the faculty, the program directors are constantly looking and working with, looking in this all of these resources, and we will make sure that we are basically providing our students with the most up-to-date and with the best resources that they can, and that we can. And this is exactly just an example of the tools and resources. So we will find, handpick, and curate those resources in this post-COVID environment. We did not have this kind of collaborations to this extent prior to COVID, BC time, if you will. We did not have this formal integrations or this extent of integration, and this will just continue to grow. Again, a question was, how do you see the future? And Phil mentioned that, yes, this will be the collaboration, hybrid environments. We will have an online component, and this will continue to grow. We will add more resources. We will, of course, retire some of these resources, and we will add them, substitute them with more relevant and more interesting resources. With that being said, I guess I want to jump into the third part of our lecture, of my presentation today, which is going to talk about the programs that we are offering at Harrisburg University. But I think both Ruzba and Phil talked about the teaching format. Well, giving the talk, going through the story of the landscape that we have today, Harrisburg University is offering courses in hybrid format currently for Panama. And the hybrid format means a combination of, again, the best of the two worlds. We will have the face-to-face component, and we will have an online presence. The face-to-face meetings or the face-to-face components are basically managed through what we call them executive meetings. They are normally through weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, again, depending on the schedule in Panama. I'm not sure how that is planned, but there are some executive weekends that students come and basically go through a couple of hours of face-to-face meetings that will be reserved for a lot of presentations, a lot of experiments, hands-on activities, and collaboration among students. Those are exactly the components that we will basically carry over from our classical or traditional teachings. And then we will have online meetings. The online meetings are used through our Teams environment. This is the same environment that we are using to run the presentation today. The online meetings are either synchronous or asynchronous. Again, depending on the time schedule or depending on the nature of the course, there might be some synchronous component, meaning that you have a regular specific time of the week to join to the class and have a live session with an instructor and with your colleagues and your classmates, or it might be a recorded session, but with very specific benchmarks and activities that you have to complete during the week to make sure that you meet those benchmarks. Of course, all of the courses, regardless of being synchronous or asynchronous, they do have a lot of course activities, a lot of collaboration environments embedded into those courses. They are in the forms of, for example, discussion posts or discussion forums, we call them, or other kind of activities, projects, group activities, group assignments. Those are there to encourage our students to collaborate with each other, to know each other, and basically to work on a lot of resources that we have. The images that you see over here are basically the image of our learning management system or our learning management software. We are hosting our classes, we are hosting our course materials, our content, and all of the communication, all of the work that students are doing for grade submission, submitting of assignments, and everything is done in a platform called Canvas. Canvas provides an environment for students to log into the class, to see their class, to see their grades, excuse me, to basically access course materials, to walk through the, for example, course modules, and also access various resources that they have. They get notifications for their assignments when posted. They get notification for the grades. Everything is uploaded and everything. So this is the environment that you will see and you will see down the road. Now, very briefly, very quickly, if I want to talk about the curriculum or the structure of the programs in Panama for now, that we are only offering graduate programs, the curriculum is almost the same across the board. So it is 36 credit hours for graduation. Of course, we will allow for transfer credits. If you are a professional on a field and you have some work experience, if you have some certifications from recognized institutions, if you have credits, graduate work credits, they can be transferred in and they can be consumed toward the 36-hour credits. That is done through course transfer evaluation, and that can be handled with your admissions officer. Then there are some specific program-specific courses. We call them core courses. Those are the courses that all the students, regardless of their concentration, regardless of their plan of study, they have to take that. Those are the general courses that everyone should go through, again, regardless of your concentration. And then there are the elective courses. Those are the courses that you will elect based on your career objectives, based on your goals, based on your interests, and of course, based on the offerings that we have over there with the work of your program advisor. You will select the electives and you will register for them. All of our programs, that is, again, the highlights of our graduate programs and also our undergraduate program, which again, we heard about it in our previous presentation as well, is the research component to our curriculum. All of the program students should go through graduate research courses. There are 2 courses which are specifically for our graduate students to design, develop, and build a project, to define a project, design a plan for its execution, and basically solve that, develop that, and design the product. And that is interesting because it allows our graduates to add to their experiential learning, to add to their basically experience while they're basically pursuing their degree here at HU. You will add to your experience. You will have 1 year of added experience on, for example, cybersecurity. You will have 1 year of experience on analytics by simply selecting your graduate research project on a specific project, which is in line with the idea that you have. On the right side, the slide that you see, these are the characteristics of learning in Harrisburg University. I wanted to just bring them up and give you this idea. And basically, I'll leave you guys with the thought on this while you will walk through the catalog. We will go through that very quickly. These are the highlights, or these are the pillars of our learning system. We want to make sure our courses are highly engaged. You guys are not only the listener, or we are not only the speakers in our classes. We allow our students to highly engage with our in our environment. We have class discussions. We have, again, forum posts. We allow for students to take the presentation, flipping the classroom, allowing students to read and present, and we will basically work together. We want to make sure that the classes are highly available. Not only us, the faculty, are available for your questions, to provide instructions to you guys. Also, we are available through various formats. We are available face-to-face. We are available online. We are available offline with comments and questions that you can post in your send us email. And those are the availability that you will experience and you will enjoy. We are highly collaborative classes. Our classes are working. You can see projects, programs, instructors, faculty are working in different programs. And you will sense and you will feel and you will enjoy this collaborative environment. We are highly engaged, highly experiential, and highly applied. That highly applied is basically the manifestation of that highly applied version will be the graduate research courses that you all go through once you want to graduate. So with that being said, I just wanted to show you, and I wanted to just guide you where to find a lot more details and information about the programs that we have. And of course, that is at harrisburguniversity.edu website. If you go to the HU website, you will land on our homepage. This is where you can find all the information and all the interesting details about our programs in Harrisburg University. And if you go about academic and research, then you can go to the Panama location. And this page will be where you can find all the details about the programs which are currently we're offering, the programs that will be offered soon, and all the details that you need in order to navigate. I highly encourage the audience over here to please go through this, educate yourself, and send us questions. Send us, reach out to us. For example, you can go over here, you can read about the details, you can find the people who are responsible for the program, and you will have access to their email. Feel free to shoot an email to us, and we will get back to you with any comments, any questions, or any any ideas that we can have. With that being said, I want to conclude my presentation, and I'm ready for your questions if there are any.
Thank you, Said. That was great.
Thank you.
Let me see. I don't see anybody typing anything. I wanted to ask you about, I had some questions that I thought was important, but I'm afraid that I'm keeping people more than what we promised them. I really like to ask you about how to keep students engaged. That is probably the hardest job in this type of virtual sessions. Can you think quickly can go over it to give us a quick overview?
Yes. Well, if I had the answer for this question, Ruzbe, I would be a very lucky guy at this time, and I would sell it for $1 million, and I will just enjoy my time somewhere. But yes, that is a very difficult thing, to keep our students engaged, to keep the class dynamic, and to make sure that everyone is enjoying the class. But we as the faculty, and we have a lot of tricks in our sleeves that we can play. For example, allowing our students, reversing the classroom, that's one, or flipping the classroom is one of the traditional ways. We allow our students to prepare a session or work through a chapter, and then we will be the audience for the class, and they will take class and basically lead the session, and we will basically guide them through the lectures, and we will walk through them together. Some other practices in order to keep the class engaged is to have some sort of quizzes at the beginning of the session to make sure and engage what is the current interest on the topic, and then follow and basically massage your lecture or your work based on the feedback that you get. So you make sure that you're not boring the students in class by the topics that no one is interested. If I do for example, quick survey on my first class and say everyone knows about, for example, matrix manipulation, right? So then the next topic, if it's matrix manipulation, I'm going to say, you know what, everyone is very well aware of this topic. Why don't we take it to the next level? Or why don't we change the topic and basically move on the same line, but in a more interesting way? Other tricks, using a lot of other resources. A lot of videos are available, a lot of third-party resources, books, discussion, blog posts, projects that are there, and faculty should basically find those interesting components and inject them to their lessons and classes. And one of the last thing I want to add, and I'm pretty sure you've done that and seen that in Harrisburg University, is that we constantly look at our lectures, and we constantly want to make sure that we are up to speed. We are up to the beat of the technology. We are not, my classes, for example, the assignments, the activities are changing every semester, of course, based on the content that I get, based on the new version of the textbook that comes, based on the new topics that are now available to the students. And we can basically keep that students engaged with those activities. But again, it is a challenge, and a combination of all of these can be a kind of the way to go, and that is that is basically the trick to go so far.
Thank you. That was a great thing.
Sure.
Great points. So thank you again. First of all, thank the audience for staying with us and listening to this great presentation. Thank you, Phil and Said. I really enjoyed your talk, and I'm sure that the audience also enjoyed it too. Special thanks to Dr. Kevin Huggins. He is director of HULATAM. Thank you for being here today. If you want to rewatch the recording of this session, please feel free to visit our YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed this talk, there are more coming in next few weeks. Next month talk is going to be about women in STEM. Don't miss that. Thank you, everyone, for being with us, and hope to see you again in our next presentations too. Good night.